use its discretion to waive certain fees in order to encourage registration. Because I think these are precedent which has been set in other areas and in other sectors. And possibly, again, this might be something which is beneficial then, which encourages our organizations to register as PBOs because of their rising benefits. And remember, the activities which were told were listed in, I think, Schedule 6. Disability is mentioned there specifically as one of those activities that then qualify you to be registered as a PBO. Let me stop there. Thank you very much. Please remember, whatever discussions happen this morning, David, I hope you'll be able to provide us with a list of all the relevant people who are in this meeting, to whom we will circulate a draft memorandum. Then now we can finalize it in due course, what we also submitted to the authority. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for the highlights that you have given. We appreciate that. Now, I think when you were coming in, when we were registering, there are some forms that were given to us. This is a public views form and the public assessment questionnaire. We kindly request that you can, as we continue with the session, you can fill up the form so that once we are done, you will be able to leave it with us. Now, but our executive director had indicated that it is the month is the month of July. And today is a bit fair, so too bad. We've had bad days. And they've been gracious enough to also organize some warm cup of tea. So that we proceed to the next component. As we said, this is our day to air our views, to give our propositions, so that we proceed to that, and so that we also keep warm. I think we should take that 15-minute break, take a cup of tea, and then we can resume for purposes of the plenary discussions. Yeah, thank you. All right. Tea is ready. It's served. It's right outside there. Reminder, please remember to fill your views form and the questionnaire even as we go through this part. So you're welcome to start contributing. Those ones who are still outside, we're hoping that you can now maybe finish and then join us so that we can all have one meeting. But in the meantime, whoever has any questions, any proposals, any comments, you're welcome to start.
Okay, I can start.
Yes, please.
I can stand here. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. It's an observation, not a question, but I think most of us who are here will relate to this, and I then would want to ask what the nexus would look like if we get these two perspectives. And Lawrence, I hope you can also help us think through this. we in the disability space have deliberately analyzed our journey and appreciated the fact that services for persons with disability are guided by rights principles. That services are rights, and that persons with disabilities are part and parcel of their communities, and therefore there is no need for separate approaches in terms of development. And so that realization has helped us graduate from a place where we thought that people must give things to persons with disabilities. And that was a model which everyone relates to. We used to call it the charity model. Now, when I look at the Act and the regulations, I still have the interpretation that there is this language, and it's implied in some cases that the space within which we operate remains skewed in a way that there are organizations that will be recipients and organizations that will give. Hence, still perpetuating this space to be a space of and for charitable work. I don't know whether my interpretation is right, that we are still defining this space to be a space for charitable work, or is it a space for development work? I don't have the answer, but that's my feeling, that we are still defining this space that we sit in as civil society organizations, that the space is that of charity, rather than a space of development work. So I just wanted a reaction to that from anyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would kindly request that you give us your name and perhaps a reminder of the organization, so that as a repertoire's record, they'll be able to note that. Your name and...
Yeah, Edwin Osundwa, CBM Global.
Thank you so much. So for everyone who will be contributing, who will be giving their comments, questions, proposals, propositions, kindly remember to give us your name and your organization. I know we've taken the names, but for reminder purposes, you can repeat that. So perhaps from what Mr. Osundwa has asked, whether this space is one of a charitable space or a developmental space. I think, and this would be from my view, the space that the PBOs operate, you'd say falls in both categories, in the nature in which you operate, and even in terms of the definition that we've given the PBOs. You undertake those activities that are not necessarily, and the target communities or the target spaces or the target groups are mostly spaces where there's not been reach in terms of government or any other private entities, and it's mostly, could be in all or by all meaning charitable work. But in the same breath, I believe that as much as it is charitable work, it would still be considered developmental in the sense that it empowers a certain group, empowers a certain community, empowers a certain target group to undertake or just to uplift those kind of groups and or communities. I don't know. I can invite Bana DG or Madam Director. You can. No, you say anyone. I can invite anyone in the room to give their views on that as well, and perhaps as they continue to contribute. Yes, yes. Yes. Right. As I indicated earlier, I think for the benefit of those who are still outside, we have opened up the session for comments, propositions, observations, propositions. Anyone who has something to say, questions, we have the authority with us to be able to answer any administrative issues that will come up or questions that will come up. So you're open to, and feel free to give your views.
Thank you. My name is Nancy. I'm a board director with CBM. Just seeking clarification. I think because I'm retired, I'm getting tired. Just to be clear of what, when we talk of the bestowment registration, what does that actually mean? Given that taking cognizance that some of the organizations are registered as whether limited by guarantee or society. So just clarify what that bestowment means and whether that also now goes with the 18 that was brought to, in terms of certificate of registration. Do people get the registration of, the organization get the certificate of registration for that? And can they be cancelled and not withdraw the money? And that's with a light touch, just to get what bestowment mean and what does that translate to. Then the number 2 for me is really, which Dr. Mute also alluded to that, the alignment of the PBO with the PDA. I think to us that is quite critical to see how these are talking to. But the also alignment of the act, this act, and the devolution structure, the devolved structures. Really, given the fact that most of the PBO organizations are implementing or are actually collaborating more with the county government structures. So what does the authority actually the PBORA do in terms of facilitating those linkages so that the counties are working harmoniously with the PBOs that are registered up there at the national level? Thank you.
Thank you so much for those good questions. So how we do this is we take a round of questions, and then the team from PBO, Ray, as well as ourselves will be able to answer them. So maybe the next, any other person?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. As I said earlier, my name is Joseph. I'm from Deaf Empowerment Kenya, and I'm the Executive Director. So I'm very happy for the presentations. And I can see different presentations on the PBO Act, the details which are so fine. Thank you. Now, my organization is 34 years old. We started from a local organization to a CBO, and then currently we have strong structures, and we have also branches and all that. Now, I see this PBO Act, the new regulations and the process and all that. I can see what will be the issues when we want to move to the PBO Act as an organization. What are the assessment? And also, will we be able to pay over $1 million shillings. And remember that the organization is on disability. And I don't know whether we'll have to convert it and maybe do sorry. I was saying my organization, we can do an assessment, because the assessment can say that maybe we pay over 1 million shillings. But remember, my organization is on disability mainstreaming, and we mainly focus on the deaf people. So I'm assuming that if we have to close the organization and maybe we do an assessment and we find that maybe we have assets over 1 million shillings, so we have to transfer these assets to another organization. So which law provides for this, of the transfer of assets? Number 2, we are under the National Council of Persons with Disabilities. And also Dr. Mote had alluded to and said that these members who are registered with the National Council, they also have to fill other forms and be registered and recognized. So I'm trying to see the similarities between the National Council and the PBU Act. I am not yet clear on how it can be mainstreamed. The two can be mainstreamed. So I feel that we need more awareness and the expansion of the law, the PBU Act, so that we can see how the organizations can be merged and all that. So I wanted to ask the PBU, now the organization has been in existence for 4 years. So coming to the PBU Act, which law will help us mainstream to the PBU Act? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. Yes, so to come back here.
My name is Bella Werimo. I'm a director at Waldorf. So I have a number of questions, and one is in regards to the hurdles of the website. The website that is currently running, the NGO website, in terms of even accessibility, in terms of usage, sometimes you go to that website and you're trying to download forms, and it's actually quite a challenge. So already, if you're speaking of accessibility, then even for the person who has no challenge, you find that sometimes those forms or the information there is not really clear information, which then means sometimes you have to go to your office to get that information. Now, imagine somebody who is not in Nairobi and has to come to Nairobi and get that information. So there's a question of how accessible and the usage of your website. As you now launch and move to now PB Bora, really I think Bora should be the first thing that comes, as your name is saying, so that if I go to your website and I don't need to come physically to your office. And then there's, I'm also thinking about the awareness of the information for people who are in the rural areas, mashinani. How have they gotten the information of what is going on, the changes that are there? And especially when you think about groups of people with disability who have registered as CBOs, how are they going to translate their registration process and those kind of things? And is there awareness? So the civic education, I think, is something that really needs to be worked on, so that those people at the mashinani level are able to understand and have knowledge and know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't remember. Did you mention your name? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Hope rapporteurs have that. Okay. Let's take one more question and then we can proceed to answer them.
Thank you. My name is Jemima Kutata, CBM. Mine is just a concern when it comes to the PBORA registration, because when it comes to organizations of persons with disabilities, for you to get that certificate, it means you have undergone all the processes of registration. So I think we need to borrow more from the Disability Act, the current Disability Act, so that we don't go, I don't register with the National Council, I go all the processes, and then again when it comes to PBORA, I start again registering like I'm a new person. While on the system, I'm still the same organization, or rather the same person with disability. When it comes to disability, I can say disability has specific needs. The needs of persons with disabilities in Nairobi are not the same needs with my people in Bamba in Kilifi. For a person with disability or an organization in Nairobi, they just work just in Westlands. If they want a PDK, it's there. If they want National Council, it's there. If they want CBM, all are within Westlands. Now, think of this person who is in Bamba. They have to take like 600 shillings to go to Kilifi town to be able even to access internet. Where are we putting these CBOs? And if they are going to be a fee, many of the CBOs of persons with disabilities will be left out. So let's try through our counties, that's my concern, to be able to bring these services closer even to those people, so that be able to access these services if you are really, really sure we don't want to leave anyone behind. And also in our clauses, let's think of disabilities organization also as specific because of the nature of how these organizations were brought up. I can say for like the groups of visually impaired persons, there is a way they work and they feel they are very comfortable to do their things on their own. And you find that maybe they have a specific needs. So as we are really putting up these regulations, let's meet the needs of each category of disability so that we can really feel we are included, we are felt, and we are part and parcel of this Bora. Wacheni ikuwe bora zaidi kwa kila moja. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll take that first round and then we can take a second round. Karibu Bwana Digi.
Thank you very much, and I will ask Juliet to prepare in a short while to answer one or two couple of questions. I believe we need to be to, and I said earlier, to get your input. What I'm expecting from you is what Professor Mote said, and you may have learned. I didn't know even that there was an act, PWD's Act of 2025, which is very important. And what he said is that let's remember what is in there with what we have, isn't it? Yeah, because that's where we are. And even for us to agree to run this decision, it's out of the realization that we are also different and it's okay to be different, just to borrow his words, isn't it? Yeah, so let's look at what is in the regulations. What is it good that is in the Act, BWD Act of 2025, what we need now to include in our regulations, even and prepare when we will be moving to our amendment of our Act, because there are some sections of our Act that has been declared unconstitutional, so that we can also include there to capture everyone. And so, in line with that, that means if we are going as per that Act, if you are registered, and this is the proposal that you guys should be forging here, is that if you are registered by the National Council with people with disabilities, it means when your organization is coming to register with BBORA, with us, and you have that, then there should be an avenue for us to make it easy for you because you are already registered, isn't it? Yeah, I think that's what we should be able to manage there, that once you are registered there with them, because even us, we have to be very cautious so that not everyone will come and say, mimi ni PWD. Maana ile registration, si kweli? Even for the organizations that we will be writing for them a recommendation for tax exemption, it should apply that. Before we write that, let them have the registration with, yes, within National Council for People with Disabilities. Yeah, let them have that. Then come to us and say we're here because we will be collaborating together. And that means we will be having a MOU with them so that we know once they send us a forwarding letter from them that this organization is registered with us, these are their members, it becomes easy for us so that they don't go all the way like other organizations. setting and everything is important, but let's have that collaboration. Please, let's have that in your memoranda so that we can be able to be inclusive. Secondly, is about our website, and it is not very responsive. That one I admit is not very good, but we are doing something about it. We are working. I appreciate that we are a coordination board. Now we are an authority, and we have a journey. You know, history is very good, isn't it? Yeah, all of us should be able to appreciate that we've come a long way. And I take that with humility. That positive criticism will be able to make sure that our website is running. And for your information, actually, and it's good I mentioned here, that we've got a branding and visualization strategy that we are putting in place this coming year. We will be unveiling our new logo and brand identity, brand new colors. So you just see we are using the code of government. This one is a different setting for all government agencies. You know very well that if an entity in government does not have a recognized logo, they always to go to different setting. That's why sometimes you see organization with two logos, like the one for judiciary. This one is a different one. As we will be able to launch ours, we are doing very well. Already it has been approved by our management, it has been approved by our board. Basically, the day we will be launching, the day we will be rolling out these regulations at the final stage, we will be able to come with that. Lastly, before I invite Juliet, is recently we advertised the propositions within Bibera. It was in the newspapers. So I want to also take this opportunity to ask you and ask your members to apply for those positions. Accountants. It was in the advert or we did. Wapi watu yangu? Simsoma ulikuwa tarehe ngapi? Yeah, but the good thing is that the deadline is not when it is. The deadline will be on. The deadline is on 28th. So we want to, if you are registered with National Council and you apply, you need to tell us you meet the qualifications, you are registered and all that. Yeah, so that because we do not want discriminate against everybody. We want to be inclusive as much. And I like the issues that someone has said that being different doesn't mean that people will sympathize with you. Yeah? Because we are all qualified and we know, and there are people here who have said the stage, Professor Muto and the rest, that you're just like anybody else. If you're qualified, you registered with them, kindly apply. Tell us that you're registered with you and all that, and we'll be able to give you that opportunity. Juliet, please, if you can come and answer about the bestowment of public benefit status. Also, we need to appreciate that this act, you know, this name is very difficult. It does not sound like government, isn't it? It does not sound like government, so even us we find struggling. But I have been preaching and saying this was a creature of the civil society and NGOs. I inquired and I was told that David Amanda and the rest and the ones who came up with the bill, and it was adopted and it is now an act. So because we were in a forum and someone said, can you be able to change the name? We cannot be able to change the name because it's already Public Benefits Act. Are we together? Because out of the realization that all what the organizations does is for the benefit of the public. And unlike the other organizations, the foundations that apportion benefits to individual, if the organization does things for the public, so it should be clearly so. And that's why when this act says that it departs from the previous practice where it would only say you can be able to file returns and declare if you have 1 million shillings and above this act says actually, so long as you are registered as a BPO, you have to declare your annual returns. Yeah? And I know, and I want us to be able to be truthful to ourselves. We were in several other forums and people are saying, let us bring down the rates. We ought to have a conversation, and I have said this, and I'm not shy away from saying this. In the Act of 1990 set the fees that we are paying now. This is 2025. Is it okay for us to be still paying what we were paying in 1990? Yeah? You know, it's just a conversation. Yeah? Because we are going to a certain place and someone is saying, these fees are very high, let's even abolish. Yet, the fees that we are charging were set in 1990, the NGO Act of 1990. So, let's be realistic. Also, we realize that there are actually organizations that are small, but equally there are organizations that are huge. There are BPOs in this country that are running millions, isn't it? Truth be told, isn't it? Yeah. So, should we be able to have them to operate? So these are the conversations that we should be having, so that going forward we deal with it. How do we deal with organizations? Right now, Adona yesterday wrote to me and said, I want the organization, a certain organization, to be dissolved. And the reason is, the board members, who are mostly Kenyans, have been cooking the returns and have been falsifying returns, and the donor said he's been giving a lot of money. When we went to the file, they've only been declaring 250,000. Seriously? And this is what I'm saying, and I would never shy away say, organizations, PPOs should be able to be truthful in terms of their declarations. Once we finish these declarations, we will have to enter an MOU with ISPA, so that all the accountants in this country who are auditing, who are with audit firms, reputable, who have an interest of taking care of their name, also will have to audit organizations, so that we are truthful, isn't it? Yes. You see this issue about corruption in Kenya, and I know BPO and civil society is always against government or not being truthful. I can tell you from where I sit and the returns I see, in fact, you are even worse. You find an organization filing 100,000, and my auditor is there, 100,000, and this is to 100,000, to 200,000, 250,000, and they are earning billions. Why can't you be truthful and say, as we are earning, we get this much, we have employed this much, and these are the activities we are carrying on, isn't it? Yeah. Because when we declare that, and even the fear is when I come to the organization, we are driving big machines, Teslas. Really? It doesn't match what you tell me, isn't it? So we need to be truthful. We have organizations that have called people, that have called Kenyans. This morning, one of my officers was in court checking. This was told, come and be a witness. There are organizations that are calling Kenyans, deliver this, deliver that, deliver this, and then they vanish. And from government side, I came into the NGO, into the organization in February. I have registered a lot of organizations. Even this morning, I registered 15 before coming here. Online. By the way, we are doing very well online. Nowadays, your certificates are just online. I'm just there to go click, 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 and I'm done. So after I took a balance, we are online because we are also trying to reduce corruption. So when we tell you kindly go to our website, pay your subscription fees, 322. Yeah. Nowadays we don't receive money in our offices. The one for annual returns, the one for registration. You just do it at the comfort of your office. We are trying, and we'll be there very soon so that everything is online. In terms of devolution, we currently we have 5 regions. We have Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, Garissa, and Mombasa. We are employing a few people, and we will try to get another 5 regions in the next 1 year. That's our target. But we also plan to have an MOU with Huduma centers. With Huduma center, once we get everything, we finish these regulations. These regulations have statutory forms. Once we finish, we will roll out and we'll have an MOU with Huduma centers, and then we will have 58 across the country, even more than the 47 counties. We will have 58 centers where our services will be available. And I think that is in the spirit of devolution. And lastly, we will also have an MOU with counties and national government. Now listen to this. When we were in Washington, the deputy governor told us that there are organizations, and it's replicated in the counties, there are organizations who go and give the county government. They go and tell them, let's have an MOU, we want to do early childhood education, we want to do climate change, we want to do this. Once they have the MOU, they vanish. Because they use that MOU, go and solicit for money that they are working with the county government. So when the donors see that MOU with county government, they give them money. And once they get, they do what you guys do in terms of your declaration. They go and give the county government 100,000 or 200,000 for an event. And then they take the photos during the county government function, and then they are donors. You see, as we are serious collaborators with the county governments. When you go and see how much they given, 100,000 out of many other millions. I'm not saying, by that I'm not saying that all organizations are not good. We were with David the other day in Embu County, and they gave out vehicles and equipment, and we could be able to see they revived their whole hospital wing, which was worth millions of shillings. Are we together? That is the kind of things that we want to see. The authority will, as the authority now is carrying up, and going forward, once we finish, we will be able to be visiting. Because the Act says there should be identifiable beneficiaries who can be seen, who can be able to see what is being done, not in papers, not in papers only. So issues of governance, let's bring it out clearly. Issues of transparency, issues of accountability, it should also be reflected on all PBOs. Just like the way we demand from government, so all of us also should be able to walk the talk. We in the authority are committed to have everyone on board, to include everybody, to ensure that we level the playing field, we give support, we be enablers to enable organization thrive and do the best. But nevertheless, I know many people fear the sanctions that the organizations will be able to impose. But from where I sit, if we do the right thing, no one will be able to impose any sanctions on you. It's only people who are wrong and that will impose sanctions on them. But let's see how, if there is anything that you see that we should be able to rectify here, then let's put it in place. And we bear in mind that this act provides dispute resolution mechanisms through the PBO tribunal, which has been set up by the judiciary, which is up and running. We had nothing to do with it. I know there are some people who they've been saying that it is us who set up the PBO tribunal. That's not the correct position. The PBO tribunal was set up by the judiciary. They are the ones who advertised, they are the ones who interviewed, they are the ones who gave the names to parliament, and they are the ones who have actually considered those people. And I want to believe that a dispute between any organization and the tribunal and the authority can be able to be taken to the tribunal. And even within organizations. And as we are very happy from the authority so that these matters of conflicts within organizations is out of our way. You can be able to take it to the tribunal, and the tribunal can be able to hear you and make a determination. And I believe that even if you are not satisfied with what the tribunal will have ruled, then there is a room at the court of law. So I think I just felt that it's good to be able to inform you about that, and we'll be able to continue with the sensitization about what the organization do. We'll be able to also agree with and say county governments and also with the regions. You see, there are organizations who are registered in Nairobi. We give you the certificate, go and operate. I want to implore upon organizations that once you go into a certain region, it's always courteous to go to the county government and say, this is what we do, we are here, we are meeting these people. And it will help them in terms of reallocating resources within that county. Let's say, for example, you are in Turkana or any other county, and you are working in a certain sub-county, carrying out a certain project, let's say WASH. It's good just to inform the county government so that if they have resources for that particular activity, they can be able to allocate it to another sub-county in a state of the same, so that we avoid duplication. And we encourage organizations to be in forums and to be able to be talking to each other, so that you don't find yourself in the same region doing the same thing in the same area, while the same maybe sub-county in the same area is suffering, and it is something that you could be able to talk to each other, because that issue of duplication is really a lot within the organizations. Let me just give you to talk about the bestowment of public benefit status. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Juliet Karari. I'm in the legal department of the PBRA. So first, I want to begin by thanking all of you for coming for this forum. Second, I want to thank CBN for partnering with us for this forum. As Professor Mute well noted, the new act, the PWDA Act of this year, provides that public participation should be targeted. So we can confirm that this is a targeted public participation, right? Situjipigia makofi. At least we are doing what is required. So it may not be the first forum, because we've had so many all over the country, 12 to be specific. And we're having the last one on Friday, 18th, at Ufungamano Hall. So you're still invited to come there and give your views. So without repeating what our Daktari Director has said, but just to add and answer some of the questions that have been asked, I will link them together. So Professor Mute and Joseph over here noted that there may be that disconnect between the PBO Act and the Persons with Disabilities Act of 2025. The PBO Act was enacted in 2013. So you can clearly see why there's that disconnect. We are currently implementing an act that was assented into law in January of 2013, over 10 years ago. That being said, we are creating regulations for that law. So when it comes to a point where we need to amend and add onto the PBO Act, of course then we will see what is missing from the PWDA Act and all other laws which have come into place between 2013 and now that need to be reflected onto the Act, right? Something else that has come out strongly, that was also raised by the professor and Nancy, is on suspension. Sijui mbona suspension inaogopesha sana. If you are doing the right thing, as the rector said, you will not be suspended. But you find that the NGO sector has those that are helping people on the ground, and there are those that are taking advantage. It's also a vulnerable sector. People get funding and fail to do what they are supposed to do. So the reason why that Regulation 18 stipulates some of the things that need to be done upon suspension, we have no withdrawing of funds, no changing of officials, amongst others, is because we have to do investigations. We cannot investigate an organization, but at the same time, the directors who are in office have since left. So we have to tell them to retain the status quo as it was until we complete investigations. Second thing is why you're told not to withdraw funds from your account, assuming a donor has given you funding and you're mismanaging your funds. If we continue to run those accounts as they are, won't you deplete them before we can even stop what is going on? And that is the reason why we have to give that directive for accounts to be retained as they are until completion of investigation is done. Then you can proceed. The funds will still be there. We don't take them. So we just ask the banks to freeze your accounts until the investigation is done. Remember, this is a charitable sector. All the activities you're undertaking are for the benefit of your beneficiaries. The only way we can allow you to operate in a conducive environment and to serve your beneficiaries is for us to be able to enforce our mandate, which is to create a conducive environment for your beneficiaries to operate and benefit. Mr. Edwin from CBM Global asked about the the NGO space either being a charity space or a development space. So I would like to respond that it is both. Charity in the sense that charity is calculated by short-term impact. Charity is relief of poverty, welfare. So if we are coming to assist either during floods, that is a short-term impact. That is charity. If we are coming to give the poor food, that is a short-term impact. But when it comes to development, we have to look at the long-term impact. What is the root cause of that poverty? How can we assist the government in coming up with policies which help ensure that poverty is eradicated in a long-term measure? So, as the NGO sector, or now known as the PBO sector, you have to look at it from both dimensions. Yes, you're conducting charity, and yes, you're also conducting development through advocacy, through working with the government to come up with policy. So the two can actually operate mutually. There's mutual existence in both charity and development. So I hope, Edwin, that is answered. The issue of bestowment. So the PBO Act provides for 4 forms of registration. We have registration of a national NGO, registration of an international NGO, we have exemption for exempt NGOs, then we have bestowment. So bestowment is where you are already registered under a different legal entity. When the Act was developed in 2013, other charitable organizations were also being registered as trusts, associations, companies limited by guarantee, and we have societies. Now, you've also mentioned we have the National Council, which is also registering entities. So what we look at under bestowment is the public benefit test. Regulation 7 of the regulations on your table provides the public benefit test. So we look at whether your organization has met that test before it can be bestowed with the status. And the same will apply to also those registered under the National Council for PWDs. if it meets the public benefit test, then it can be bestowed with the status. So the implication of bestowment is that you just get the public benefit status, but you retain registration from your original legal regime. So if you are originally registered as a company limited by guarantee and you intend to be recognized as a PBO, you can come and get the PBO status. If you wish to be incorporated, it means you have to close the company limited by guarantee and register as a PBO, because you cannot exist under two legal regimes. So you cannot get two different registrations. I hope that is well understood. So I believe I have answered on the alignment of the act, the two acts. Yes, so maybe we can take some round of more questions, then we can proceed.
Thank you so much, DG. Oh, sorry.
No, thank you, Juliet. Just before you leave the stage, is the bit of Ms. David Munyundo from CBO. In terms of allegiance, accountability, when you've been bestowed, that's for more or less like identity that you belong. But in terms of the legal compliance, where do you fall?
Okay, so when you're bestowed, you said like David, is David a company or a society? Okay, so David CLG is currently registered under BRS under the Companies Act and wishes to be bestowed with the PBO status. So we will bestow you with the PBO status if you meet the public benefit test, right? So when you're filing returns, you will file to both the company, because you're still a company limited by guarantee, but you will also be required to file to report to the PBO regulatory authority, because we still have to see what you're doing in terms of public benefits. Okay.
No, I was asking also, during the process of the assessment for bestowment, is there cost implications towards that?
So there's the fees schedule towards the end of the regulations that provides fees for all services we offer, and bestowment is one of them.
Hi everyone, my name is Maureen Sharon Awino from NeuroKids Warriors. So my concern is about, you guys are talking about the bills and everything, but you're forgetting, we are talking about disability. You're forgetting the new act that is saying that even the caregivers are being included in that act. Yet I've not seen you guys talking on the groups that are having the caregivers, and I'm just looking on it. I'm not seeing anywhere that the caregivers are being included, since that right now the new act is including caregivers with children with disability. Thank you.
Thank you. Did she say her name? You indicated your name?
Yeah, my name is Maureen Sharon Awino.
Maureen Sharon Awino. Okay, thank you so much, Maureen. Before we move to the next round of questions, which has been opened by Sharon, so that we close out on the first round, someone asked about civic education and the need for that to be done, and I think maybe just to answer that, the Act itself provides that the authority is mandated to conduct some capacity building. Now, this is provided under Section 28 of the Act, as well as Section 42 of the Act. where the authority is mandated to advise and train PBOs. So I believe that is also covered. There's also a question on this transfer of assets. I believe there was a question on where that is anchored and why that is. That is also anchored in the Act. You, as we have discussed here, you're dealing with really you're dealing with what groups? You're dealing with groups that need to be protected, and whatever assets the PBO holds is for the benefits of those groups. So that is the reasoning and the rationale behind the safeguarding of these assets. This is in as provided for under Section 62 of the Act, as well as the regulations as I had previously highlighted. So I think we can now proceed to take the second round as Carol, Mike. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Josephine Owinga. I represent Disability Rights Trust. Mine is not a question, but really just an exhortation to the PIBORA that the new Disability Act requires that we mainstream disability. And even as you do your work, really the questions that we are raising here seeks to just enhance and implement the Disability Act in the sense in issues of inclusion. And therefore, even as you advertise for positions, please consider the 5% in the Constitution and in the Act, as well as just doing intentional disability mainstreaming. If that is done, that you fusion both the Disability Act and this Act, I think the questions we are raising here will really be dealt with conclusively. So mine is just to urge you to consider the Disability Act, the Constitution, and also the disability mainstreaming as strategic and as intentional as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can move to Professor, and then on this table we have a couple of hands up.
Two quick comments. Just actually proceeding with a comment from the last speaker. I think there's a nuance which PIBORA and others need to be careful about. Registration is important, but I think we also need to keep in mind that registration is usually for administrative purposes. Registration usually is for convenience. The fact that one may not be registered does not mean and should not mean that one is not what they are. In fact, when you look at the Persons with Disabilities Act, even as it requires, not requires, even as it provides that people with disabilities may register with the council, the law, that law is also careful to say that the fact that a person with a disability does not register with the council does not mean that they are excluded from the rights which are, or entitlements which are established in the Act. So the point I'm making is that yes, registration is important. Registration is useful for the bureaucracy in terms of we need to know who you are. So, for example, if you're seeking a tax exemption, then it's important that, for example, you register. Now, when I go to town and I park my car in a slot which is indicated as for a person with a disability, and perhaps I'm getting out of my car and I'm using a wheelchair, If the attendant tells me, you cannot park your car here because you don't have a disability sticker. And I'm saying, wait a minute, but actually you can see I'm disabled. But I say, no. As far as I'm concerned, you don't have a sticker. Perhaps you're not even registered with the council. So the point I'm making, DG, for example, is that I hear you when you encourage people that, apply for jobs. That's important. I think registration may evidence disability, but I think if I come and you're interviewing me and I don't have a registration certificate with the council, but obviously I'm disabled, I'm blind, or I'm deaf, or etc., etc., and I know, of course, then there are those invisible disabilities, then I think one needs to use their discretion in a way that I don't say that because you're not registered, therefore you, for our purposes, simply shall not be interviewed, etc., etc. Now, the other point I should make, Osundwa raises a very interesting philosophical point, and I think the lawyers have answered him at a technically legal level. So around, there's a law, Osundwa, or we call it the law of charities. So that whole discussion around charity, around trusts, there's a huge discourse around that, and poverty and all that sort of thing. And I think the colleagues have answered that question. I think part of the philosophical conversation that people with disabilities need to have is, of course, for us, we say that our focus, we do not want charity. What we want are opportunities. So in fact, we speak in terms of not charity, but opportunity. So I think this, perhaps we need to understand this possibly as a different philosophical discussion, where in the past, when President Moi raised the Harambee in 1980 and then moving forward, the assumption was that what you do with the disabled people is you do Harambees because they just need that sort of help. But actually what we're saying is that now we're approaching this from a rights perspective, which basically means that I have the right to, I go to school not as a matter of charity, but as a matter of right. The government cannot say there's an NGO or PBO, so if you want to go to school, go to that Lions Club, they are going to give you money to go to school. So at a philosophical level, we are saying our focus must be on rights, not charity. But having understood that, then we still have to come back Osundwa and recognize that then there is this big animal called the law of charities, which actually is not just focused on disability, it's focused on so many other issues, as I think colleagues have pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor. I think we can proceed to this.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Nzuki. I work for the Association for the Physically Disabled of Kenya. And thank you so much for this forum, Director, and also CBN for really organizing this. I think mine will be around clause 67 of the act that we are discussing, and just emphasize that it is very important that the PBORA really stand for us as organizations of persons with disabilities, especially when it comes to the fact that the act is so clear that there is involvement by government, where they are saying everything that they are going to do that affects persons with disability, there is going to be involvement. And it's good that, the Director, you mentioned that we wrote to you as a PDK from the start, because we got frustrated where we could not get funds from the National Council, funds that are meant for children with disabilities, and it's like we've got to sort of stop until that is sorted. So if there was involvement, especially in matters of e-government, perhaps as public benefit organizations, especially dealing with persons with disabilities, we could have been involved so that at least we could have given the government the fact that we need to be part of setup as part of a public benefit organization that is dealing with a matter that is so sensitive. So going forward, because this is an act of posterity, I'm just extolling you to ensure that everything is actually implemented so that we don't have some of these kind of situations arising. Thank you very much.
Very grateful for that. Yes.
My name is Fatuma Mohammed. I work with Northern Nomadic Soil Persons Organization, NONDO, as the CEO. My question is, or my concerns are with the grassroots organizations, the disability organizations, which are at the grassroots and mostly registered as CBOs. We know that the CBOs are required to renew their registration annually. Does this mean that they're going to be, as they're waiting for registration annually, are they going to also register with the PBO annually? Or what happens? And then those organizations, those small organizations, most of them receive the funding or the sources in kind. They might not have that, and they're doing very nice work. They're doing their work very well, but they're not receiving probably in cash or in their bank accounts. One of the compliance is to submit the audit reports. What happens if they do not have this report? Because they might not even have the resources to hire an auditor. Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you. David is my name from CBO. Now, my question is around safeguarding of assets in the process of voluntary dissolution and deregistration, either by court or by the authority. If you look at Article 35 of the regulations, it's quite well enumerated what happens in the event of voluntary dissolution of the organization, but it's not enumerated on what really happens in this process when it comes to deregistration, either by the authority or by court. So I really wish to emphasize that perhaps the authority takes into account something similar to placing the organization under receivership and oversighting the transition process until the disposal of assets is properly managed. Because I think if you drop one just to hang the balance and then only provide for dissolution which is voluntary, then it means once you are registered, the board can sell all the assets as they wish, or people can take them as they wish. And so this will compromise the overall intended purpose at the time of registration. Thank you.
Thank you for those great.
Thank you. Just probably following this issue of the mainstreaming, and my suggestion for consideration is that whether we can take this opportunity, because BPOs are also not very inclusive, to be honest. So to be intentional, can the Act include something like when it comes to membership and board, that they are also suggesting a certain threshold that the PBOs boards, I think something was written here, 5, provided 2 are not relatives or something when I was reading. So that it becomes intentional, just like the government do performance, when they are doing performance contracting and assessment, they are looking at how the extent to which the disability, the special groups. So can that also be considered to be included when we are suggesting how BPO should be? Number 2, the issue of the membership. When it comes to international organization, even if they're implementing, the reality of the matter is that they still have a parent organization out there. The issue of membership is becoming a bit untidy because they are actually more or less forcing, and yet they are tied to some rules out there in the parent organization. So it's something to look at whether we are still going to talk of international organization, even if they are implementing, to have membership. Number 3, advice for the benefits. I think the PIBORA can also be a good advisor to the government in funding or co-funding some PBOs that are doing extremely good work. Number 4, I think there are also a benefit of facilitating linkage with the county governments. Thank you.
Sorry, I'd like maybe possibly you could clarify the issue of memberships in INGOs, the issue you're bringing up.
Well, unless it has changed. The issue is that if you are registered under the PBO, when you need to have members who now, where the board is now drawn from the members and so forth. The reality of the matter is that mainly these international organizations will not have members. So that's the challenge that quite a number are going through, whether they now go and look for members, which again have to comply with some of the rules of the parent organization there.
Right, thank you. I think so that we don't lose any questions, we can take those ones before we proceed. I'll make sure that this time around I will just be looking like this. I will not look this side. I'll just do this. Yeah. Okay. Julie?
Thank you, Sheila. So most of the suggestions which have been given were actually suggestions and feedback, and our rapporteurs are taking them keenly. I hope you are. But I will try and address a few. So David has brought out the issue of safeguarding of assets during dissolution and deregistration. So dissolution is voluntary. Your board can come together and decide either we have finished all our objectives, all the people we intended to benefit have benefited, and we intend to close this organization. Or they can decide we are not getting funding, it's becoming hard to operate, so we intend to dissolve this organization. So what happens upon dissolution is that those assets, we need to know where they're being transferred to. Before you transfer any assets of your regulation, whether it's during dissolution or even throughout the life of your organization, you need to inform the authority. Remember, these are assets acquired for the benefit of your beneficiaries. So anything you do with these assets, the authority has to be aware. And upon deregistration, any assets acquired during the lifetime of the PBO have to be transferred to an organization with similar objectives. So assuming CBM is operating to benefit the blind, there are other organizations which benefit the blind and persons with disabilities, e.g. APDK. So if at all CBM is being closed, those assets should be transferred to an organization such as APDK, which is still operating within the sector. I hope that is understandable. In no case should an organization distribute assets or monies within the directors. They should in no way distribute assets to themselves before they close. Okay? And that's how we safeguard the assets. So Fatma has raised the issue of annual reports. So previously, under the NGOs Act, organizations were required to file returns within 3 months after the end of their financial year. So assuming your financial year is January to December, you have until the end of March to file your annual returns. There was that prescribed form known as Form 14. I'm sure you're all aware of it. There was also the...
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Laxmana Kipto. I'm the Director and the CEO of Public Benefit Organizations Regulatory Authority. We are here today to conduct a very special public participation on our regulations, and it will end this Friday in Nairobi. We've gone across the country. We began in Garissa, we went to Meru, Nyeri, Machakos, Mombasa, Lamu, Lodwar, Kisumu. Today, because it's a targeted one, in conjunction together with CPM and the ABDK, we've come to listen to views of PWDs, persons with disabilities. And we've managed to get very good insights today, and because we are very purposeful to include everyone, to include all of them, all organizations dealing with people with disabilities. So we've given them the opportunity, and we still have time until 25th of July. And we are happy that they've committed that with the guidance of Professor Mute, they will go through the regulations, and they will give us their inputs and possibly give us a memoranda before the end of this exercise. So we are very purposeful in the authority to ensure that persons with disabilities are catered for, are included, and as it is stipulated in the Constitution. And so that's why we are here today. Maybe perhaps I'll give Munyendo to say one thing, and then Professor, then we'll be able to shield any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
The country director mission CPM Kenya, and today is a very important day in our history because we have a passion for the public benefits organizations, regulatory authority regulations. The most important for us is that sometimes this sector, if you're not targeted, we tend to be left out. And so today is really important, and from what's really happening on the floor, it's evident that there are issues and concerns that are very important to the sector that needs to be taken into consideration under the regulations. I really want to thank the PBORA Director, Dr. Laxmana, for really there is an inclusion, and it becomes a process, because what is actually coming out is that we need to be very diverse in our, so this really goal that we really want to score together.
I'm also a partner on guard for regulations. There are a whole range of issues which are arising about regulations. So it's not just about